3 days before the wedding I'd paid $30,000 for, my son called to say I wasn't welcome at my own table. "Mom, listen," Alex said, his voice doing that thing where he pretended to care while destroying me. "Julia's family has certain expectations. The Harrisons are flying in business partners from Tokyo, from London. These are billion-dollar people. And," he paused, "you're wonderful, but maybe just come for the ceremony, skip the reception." Skip the reception. Like I was an embarrassing +1 instead of the woman who gave birth to him in a charity hospital, raised him alone after his father's construction accident, built a laundromat empire from our settlement money while he did homework in the back office. $30,000. That's what I paid to be told I wasn't good enough to eat dinner at my only child's wedding. That's what 46 years of sacrifice was worth. A seat at the church, but not at the table. My name is Rachel Winters. I'm 68 years old, and I was about to make a decision that would shock everyone. Before I tell you what I did, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. Tell me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Here's what happened when a mother finally said, "Enough." The morning it all began to unravel, I was in my office at Winters Fresh Laundry at 6 a.m., same as every day for the past 20 years. The smell of fresh detergent and steam filled the air, a scent that had become my perfume, my identity. I looked at the framed photo on my desk. Alex in his cap and gown at his MBA graduation, my pride and joy, my everything. But to understand why I did what I did, you need to know how it all started. In 1978, I was Rachel Thompson, 22 years old, with a full scholarship to nursing school at the University of Colorado. 3 months into my first semester, I discovered I was pregnant. The father was Tom Winters, an electrician who worked at the campus. He was a good man who stepped up immediately. "We'll make it work, Rachel," he said, holding my hand as I cried over my textbooks. "Family comes first." So I dropped out, walked away from my dream of being a nurse to become a mother. Alex arrived on a snowy February morning in 1979, and the moment I held him, I knew I'd made the right choice. Tom worked double shifts to support us while I stayed home, clipping coupons and making baby food from scratch. Then came August 15, 1987. Alex was 8. Tom was working on a construction site when a beam fell. The foreman called me at 2:47 p.m. I still remember the exact time. "There's been an accident, Mrs. Winters." Tom died before the ambulance arrived. The company gave us a settlement. $50,000 after the lawyers took their cut. It sounds like a lot, but when you're 31 with an 8-year-old and no degree, it's terrifying how fast money disappears. That's when I started Winters Fresh. Just a small laundromat at first, using $30,000 from the settlement. I worked 16-hour days, bringing Alex with me after school. He'd do homework in the back office while I pressed shirts and dealt with customers. When the washer broke, I learned to fix it myself from library books because calling a repairman meant no groceries that week. Men asked me out over the years. Jim from the bank, who always smiled when I made my loan payments. Robert, whose daughter was in Alex's class. Even Pastor Johnson hinted at coffee after Sunday service. I turned them all down. Alex needs stability, I'd tell myself, ignoring the loneliness that crept in after Alex went to bed. By the time Alex graduated high school with a full scholarship to Denver University, Winters Fresh had grown to 3 locations. I'd built something from nothing, from grief and determination and countless nights of sleeping only 4 hours. The day he got his acceptance letter, Alex hugged me tight. "I'm going to make you proud, Mom. When I'm successful, I'll take care of you. You'll never have to work another day." I believed him. God help me. I believed every word. The phone on my desk rang, interrupting my memories. The caller ID showed a name that always made my stomach tighten lately. Julia Harrison, Alex's fiancée. "Hi, Rachel." Her voice was bright, too bright. "Just calling about the wedding budget. We've had to upgrade a few things." "Upgrade?" I kept my voice steady, though my hand gripped the phone tighter. Julia had been upgrading things since the day Alex proposed 6 months ago. "Well, the Harrison family has certain expectations," Julia said. and I could practically hear her examining her manicured nails through the phone. Daddy says the Grand Ballroom at the Ritz-Carlton is really the only appropriate venue. It's $15,000 just for the space, but don't worry, we're splitting everything evenly. Evenly. As if the Harrison real estate empire splitting costs with a laundromat owner was remotely even. But I swallowed my pride, same as I'd been doing since Alex brought Julia home a year ago. The first time I met the Harrisons was at Le Bernardin, a French restaurant where the menu didn't have prices. I'd worn my best dress, a navy outfit from Macy's that cost me $200, more than I'd ever spent on clothing. Julia had looked me up and down when Alex introduced us, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "So, you're Alex's mother," she'd said, as if she'd expected someone else entirely. "Alex talks about you. Sometimes." Her father, William Harrison, was worse. Within 5 minutes, he was grilling me about my investment portfolio and diversification strategy. When I mentioned I owned a small business, his eyes lit up. "Oh, what sector? Tech? Biomedical?" "Laundry services," I said. The table went quiet. Julia's mother, Patricia, actually set down her wine glass with a small clink. Alex jumped in quickly, his face reddening. "Mom's actually retired early. She's been so successful she barely needs to work anymore." That was the first lie. There would be many more. William Harrison recovered with practiced smoothness. How industrious, salt of the earth work, very admirable. But the way he said admirable made it sound like quaint or maybe unfortunate. After that dinner, Alex pulled me aside in the parking lot. "Mom, maybe don't mention the laundromats to Julia's friends. Just say you're in the service industry, or better yet, that you're retired." "Are you ashamed of me, Alex?" "Of course not!" But he couldn't meet my eyes. "It's just, the Harrisons move in different circles. I need to fit in if I'm going to advance at the firm. You understand, right? You always said you wanted the best for me." I understood. I understood that my son was slipping away, trading his soul for a corner office and a country club membership. But I nodded and smiled, because that's what mothers do. 3 months ago, Julia had called with the wedding budget. "We're thinking modest," she'd said. "Maybe $60,000 total? The Harrisons will cover half, naturally." $30,000. That was 4 months of profit from all 3 locations combined. But Alex was my only child, my baby. The reason I'd worked until my hands were raw and my back ached every morning. "I'll make it work," I told Julia. "You're sure?" There was something in her voice, a note of surprise mixed with, was it disappointment? As if she'd hoped I'd say no. Because if it's too much, we could always scale back, maybe have the reception at a nice restaurant instead of... I said I'll make it work. 2 weeks later, I walked into First National Bank of Denver, where I'd been a customer for 30 years. The check felt heavy in my purse. $30,000, drawn from my business account. Margaret, the teller who'd known me since Alex was in middle school, raised her eyebrows when she saw the amount. "That's a big withdrawal, Rachel. You sure about this?" "It's for Alex's wedding." Her expression softened. "Oh, how wonderful. He's marrying that Harrison girl, right? You must be so proud." Proud. I signed the check with a steady hand, though something cold was settling in my stomach. Alex had promised I'd sit at the VIP table, right next to the Harrisons. "You're the mother of the groom, Mom. You'll be treated like royalty." But when the wedding invitation arrived last week, embossed on cardstock so thick it could cut paper, my name was printed in tiny letters at the very bottom, almost like an afterthought. Rachel Winters, mother of the groom. The morning I wrote that check, I sat in my office calculating and recalculating. $30,000 meant delaying new equipment for the Denver location. It meant no vacation again this year. Not that I'd taken one in 5 years anyway. It meant watching every penny for the next 6 months, maybe eating more rice and beans than a 68-year-old woman should. But then I thought about Alex at 8 years old, crying because the other kids made fun of his second-hand clothes. "When I grow up, Mom, I'm going to be rich. I'll buy you a big house and you'll never have to work again. Promise." That promise echoed in my mind as I drove to the bank. The check was already filled out, sitting in my purse like a lead weight. $30,000, payable to Harrison Winter's wedding account. Julia had insisted on her name being first. At the bank, I stood in line behind a young mother with 2 kids. The older one, maybe 7, was tugging at her sleeve. "Mom, can we get ice cream after?" "We'll see, honey. Mommy needs to check the budget first." I wanted to tell her it never gets easier, that you'll sacrifice everything for them, and one day they might look at you like you're an embarrassment. But I kept quiet and moved forward when Margaret called me over. "Rachel, how are those grandbabies?" she always asked, even though I'd told her repeatedly that Alex and Julia weren't planning kids yet. "No grandbabies yet, Margaret. Just here to transfer some funds." She looked at the check and whistled low. Weddings sure have gotten expensive. In my day, we got married in the church basement with cake from the grocery store. "Times change," I said, though my hand trembled slightly as I signed the authorization. "You know this is a big chunk of your business account. You sure you don't want to do a payment plan instead? We could set up—" "It's fine, Margaret. My son only gets married once." She processed the transfer, but her eyes were concerned. "Rachel, honey, I've known you for what, 15 years? You sure everything's okay?" Everything wasn't okay, but I smiled and nodded because that's what you do. You smile and nod and pretend your son hasn't become a stranger who's ashamed of where he came from. That afternoon, Alex stopped by the office to pick up the check. He was wearing one of his expensive suits, Tom Ford or something like that. Each one cost more than I spent on clothes in 5 years. "Thanks, Mom," he said, folding the check without looking at it. "Julia's family is covering the flowers and the band, so this really helps with the venue and catering." "The invitation came yesterday," I said carefully. "My name was—" "Oh, that was the printer's mistake. Don't worry about it." He was already checking his phone, fingers flying over the screen. "Listen, Julia wanted me to ask, at the reception, maybe don't mention the laundromats? Her dad is bringing some potential investors for my startup, and we want to project a certain image." "What image is that exactly?" He finally looked up, and for a moment, I saw irritation flash across his face. "Mom, please. You know how important this is. The Harrisons have connections that could set us up for life. Julia's already gotten me meetings with 3 venture capital firms. And these venture capitalists would be put off by your mother owning a successful business? It's complicated." He pocketed the check and headed for the door. "Oh, and you'll be at table 12 for the reception. The Harrisons have a lot of family flying in, so the main tables are pretty full." Table 12. I looked it up later. It was near the kitchen doors. "Alex," I called as he reached the door. "Remember when you were 10 and you wrote me that Mother's Day card? You said I was the strongest person you knew." He paused but didn't turn around. "I was a kid, Mom. I said a lot of things." After he left, I sat in my empty office, listening to the rhythmic sound of washing machines in the next room. $30,000, 4 months of profit, 20 years of 16-hour days. And I wasn't even worth a seat at the main table. I found out about the wedding dress fitting the way I found out about most wedding events, through Instagram. Julia had posted a story. "Dress fitting day with my girls," with a photo of champagne glasses clinking. In the background, I could see Patricia Harrison laughing with Julia's bridesmaids. My throat tightened. The mother of the groom wasn't invited to the dress fitting. I called Alex immediately. "Oh, Mom, we forgot to mention it. It's really just for Julia's side. You know how these things are." "No, Alex, I don't know how these things are. This is your first wedding, remember? And my first time being mother of the groom." "Don't be dramatic. Look, if you really want to come, it's at Bella's Bridal on Madison, 2 o'clock. I arrived at 1:45, wearing the same navy dress I'd worn to meet the Harrisons. The boutique was all white marble and crystal chandeliers, the kind of place where they offer you champagne just for walking in. Julia's bridesmaids were already there, a cluster of young women in designer jeans and silk blouses. Patricia Harrison sat in a throne-like chair, directing the show. "Oh," Patricia said when she saw me. "Rachel, you came." Not, "How wonderful to see you," or "We're so glad you're here." Just, "You came," like I was an uninvited guest at my own son's wedding preparations. Julia emerged from his dressing room in a cloud of white satin and lace. The dress was stunning, easily $15,000 worth of hand-beaded fabric and designer craftsmanship. She looked like a princess, and for a moment I forgot my hurt and smiled genuinely. "You look beautiful, Julia." She barely glanced at me. "Thanks. Mom, what do you think?" She was asking Patricia, not me. I'd become invisible, a ghost haunting my own son's wedding. One of the bridesmaids, a blonde named Casey, giggled after her third glass of champagne. "Julia, you're so lucky Alex is nothing like his family. I mean, can you imagine if he'd ended up running a laundromat?" She said laundromat the way someone might say sewage treatment plant. The room went quiet. Julia's eyes flicked to me, then away. "Casey, that's... Oh my God, I'm so sorry!" Casey covered her mouth, but her eyes were gleaming with malicious delight. "I didn't know she was here. I just meant—" "We all know what you meant," I said quietly. Patricia cleared her throat. "Perhaps we should focus on the dress. Julia, darling, I think the train needs to be longer. We want this to photograph well for the society pages." Society pages. Because that's what mattered. Not the marriage, not the love, but how it would look in the Denver Post's society section. I sat through another hour of alterations and discussions about bustle styles and veil lengths. Every suggestion I made was politely ignored or contradicted by Patricia. When I mentioned that Julia might want to consider comfort for dancing, Patricia laughed. "Oh, Rachel, at a Harrison wedding, the bride doesn't really dance. She makes appearances. There's a difference." Finally, Julia was back in her street clothes, and the owner was carefully packaging the dress. Patricia stood and announced, "The alterations will be $2,000. I'll handle it, of course." "That's very generous," I said. "But I'd like to contribute." "No need," Patricia cut me off. "We know money must be tight for you, what with your little business and all. Save your pennies for something else." Little business. My 3 locations that employed 40 people and grossed over $1 million a year. My life's work reduced to a little business. Julia pulled me aside as everyone was leaving. "Rachel, I need to ask you something. For the reception, what were you planning to wear?" "I bought a navy dress. It's very elegant. Navy might photograph too dark. Maybe something in beige or gray. We want you to blend in, complement the color scheme." Blend in. That was the goal. Make Rachel invisible. "Also," Julia continued, "Alex mentioned you might give a speech. Maybe keep it short, like 2 minutes max. The Harrisons have a lot of family who want to speak, and we need to keep things moving." 2 minutes to talk about my only son at his wedding? She had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "It's just that Daddy has some important guests, and long speeches can be so tedious. You understand." I understood perfectly. I understood that I was being erased, bit by bit, from my own son's life. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Mom, Julia said you were upset about something at the fitting. Please don't make this about you. This is our day." Our day, not mine, not even partially mine, despite the $30,000 with my signature on it. Their day, and I was just an inconvenient obligation, a +1 who happened to share DNA with the groom. The rehearsal dinner at the Ritz-Carlton, Denver, should have been perfect. The grand ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, and servers in crisp uniforms circulated with trays of champagne and canapes that cost more per bite than most people spent on lunch. I arrived exactly on time, wearing a new dress, beige, as Julia had suggested, though it made me look washed out and 10 years older. William Harrison was holding court near the bar, surrounded by men in $1,000 suits. He was in the middle of a story about his latest development deal when he saw me. His smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Ah, Rachel, you found the place all right?" As if I might have gotten lost coming to the most prominent hotel in Denver. "Gentlemen, this is Alex's mother. She runs a... what is it again? Cleaning service?" "Laundry service," I corrected. 3 locations. "How enterprising," one of the men said, the same way you'd compliment a child's lemonade stand. The dinner seating was telling. The head table had the Harrisons, Julia, Alex, and Julia's siblings. I was placed at a side table with distant Harrison cousins and +1s. Alex hadn't even looked for me when he walked in, just went straight to Julia's side like a well-trained puppy. During William's welcome speech, he thanked everyone for coming. "We're so thrilled to welcome Alex into the Harrison family. He's everything we could want for our Julia, smart, ambitious, and from good stock." He paused, glancing at me. "Well, mostly good stock." The room laughed. I didn't. "Now, Alex didn't come from money," William continued, "but he's got something better. Hunger, the boys going places. With the right connections and guidance, of course. That's what family's for, isn't it? To lift each other up? Unless that family runs a laundromat, apparently." When it was time for toasts, Patricia spoke about Julia's perfect childhood, her equestrian trophies, her semester in Paris. Julia's brother talked about how Alex better treat his sister right, or else. Everyone laughed at that, too. Then the microphone came to me. The room quieted, not with anticipation, but with the kind of silence that falls when someone inappropriate is about to speak. "I want to tell you about the Alex I raised," I began. "The boy who did his homework in the back of a laundromat because his mother couldn't afford daycare. The young man who—" "Mom!" Alex interrupted, standing quickly. "Maybe save the stories for tomorrow?" "Let your mother speak," someone called out. One of the servers, actually, who immediately looked mortified at speaking up. But Alex was already taking the microphone. "My mom's just emotional. Weddings, you know. Let's hear from Uncle Harrison about his golf tournament." I sat down, my face burning. The woman next to me, one of Patricia's sisters, patted my hand condescendingly. "Don't worry, dear. Not everyone's comfortable with public speaking." Halfway through dinner, Julia's Uncle Charles, well into his 5th scotch, lurched over to our table. "So you're the laundry lady. Julia says you do excellent work. Maybe you could give me a discount. These shirts cost a fortune to clean." He laughed at his own joke, spittle flying. "I don't do dry cleaning anymore," I said quietly. "I own the business. I have employees who—" "Still, must be nice having a steady little income. Not like these tech ventures Alex is getting into. Real work, honest work. Nothing wrong with washing other people's clothes." There was everything wrong with how he said it, though. Like I was somehow beneath them because I'd built something with my hands instead of inheriting it like the Harrisons had. The final humiliation came during dessert. Julia was showing her aunts the wedding planning binder, and I heard her say, "The flowers alone are costing $15,000. Thank God Daddy's covering that. Alex's side is handling the venue and catering, which is sweet, though I'm not sure how—" She caught my eye and stopped. "Though you're not sure how what?" I asked, walking over. Julia's smile was razor sharp. "Oh, nothing. Just logistics. You know how complicated weddings are. Well, maybe you don't. This is your first one too, right?" "What she means," Patricia added smoothly, "is that we appreciate whatever contribution you can make. Every little bit helps." Every little bit. My $30,000 was a little bit to them. As the evening ended, Alex pulled me aside near the coat check. "Mom, you seemed upset tonight." "Your future father-in-law called me mostly good stock, Alex." "He was joking. You need to lighten up. This isn't about you." "When did you become this person?" I asked. "When did you become someone who's ashamed of where you came from?" "I'm not ashamed. I'm just evolved. I want more than what we had growing up. Is that so wrong?" "We? You mean what you had? What I provided working 16-hour days?" "See, this is what you do. You make everything about your sacrifices. Maybe I didn't ask you to sacrifice. Maybe I would have been fine if you just what? Not fed you? Not kept a roof over your head after your father died?" He sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Just try to get through tomorrow without making a scene, okay? For me?" 3 days before the wedding, Alex came to my office at Winters Fresh. It was unusual. He hadn't been there in over 2 years. He looked uncomfortable standing among the industrial washers and the smell of detergent, like he was afraid it might stick to his expensive suit. "Mom, we need to talk about the wedding." My stomach dropped. "Is everything okay? Did something happen with the venue?" No, everything's fine. Better than fine, actually. Julia's dad surprised us by inviting 3 more tables of his business associates. Big players in Denver real estate. This could be huge for my startup." "That's wonderful, honey." though I noticed he still hadn't told me what his startup actually did. Yeah, it is. But here's the thing. He sat down across from my desk, the same desk where he used to do his homework 20 years ago. We've had to reorganize the seating a bit. Table 12 is already pretty far from... Actually, you're at table 18 now, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. He pulled out his phone, not meeting my eyes. Julia and I were thinking, maybe it would be better if you just came for the ceremony. The words didn't make sense at first. What do you mean? The ceremony. You know, the actual wedding part. At the church. You could skip the reception. Skip my own son's wedding reception? Not skip, just... Look, the Harrisons have a certain image to maintain. These business connections are crucial, and you're, He gestured vaguely at my office, at me, at everything I represented. I'm what, Alex? You're wonderful, Mom, but you're not... polished. Last night at the rehearsal dinner, you looked so uncomfortable. Julia noticed. Her family noticed. We just think you'd be happier if you didn't have to deal with all that society stuff. You mean Julia would be happier if she didn't have to explain why the groom's mother owns a laundromat? That's not... He stopped, running his hand through his hair. Okay, yes, that's part of it. The Harrisons are offering to invest in my company, Mom, $2 million. But they want to know they're backing someone who fits their world. And I don't fit. You could, if you just tried harder. But you won't. You insist on talking about the business, about Dad's death, about our struggles. It's embarrassing. Embarrassing. The word hit me like a physical blow. Also, he continued, as if he hadn't just shattered my heart, if anyone asks about the wedding costs, please don't mention that you contributed. The Harrisons want their friends to think they covered everything. It's a status thing. I gave you $30,000. I know, and we're grateful. But that money came from the laundromat, and that's not the image we want to project. Julia's already told people her family is paying for everything. So you want me to lie? I want you to be discreet. There's a difference. I stared at this stranger wearing my son's face. What happened to the boy who promised he'd take care of me when he got successful? I am taking care of you. I'm protecting you from a world that would eat you alive. These people, Mom, they're not like us. They judge you, mock you behind your back. I'm trying to spare you that. No, you're trying to spare yourself. He stood up, checking his Rolex, a gift from the Harrisons. Look, just think about it, okay? The ceremony is at 2 p.m. You could come, see me get married, then quietly leave. No one would even notice. I would notice. Mom, please, for once in your life, don't make this about you. This is my chance to be somebody. You already were somebody. You were my son. Were? He looked genuinely confused. I still am. No, I said quietly. My son would never ask me to hide. My son was proud of where he came from. That son was naive. This is the real world, Mom. In the real world, appearances matter. Money matters. Connections matter. And mothers don't? He sighed again, that practiced, patronizing sigh. You matter, just from a distance. At least for now. Once I'm established, once the company takes off, things will be different. Will they? Or will there always be another reason to keep me at arm's length? You're being dramatic. It's one reception, 6 hours of your life. Is that really too much to ask after everything Julia and I have done for you? What exactly have you done for me, Alex? He looked stunned. We included you. We invited you to dinners, to the planning meetings. You tolerated me. There's a difference. Fine, be that way, but I need an answer. Will you just come to the ceremony, or are you going to insist on ruining our reception with your presence? Your presence. As if I was a stain that needed to be hidden. I'll think about it, I said. He left without saying goodbye, without the hug he used to give me every time we parted. I sat in my office until long after the sun set, staring at the photo of 8-year-old Alex on my desk, wondering when I'd lost him, or if I'd ever really had him at all. You know, sitting here telling you this story, I can feel that moment all over again, the moment your child looks at you like you're something to be ashamed of. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever given everything to someone only to have them wish you were different, better, less you? I need to know I'm not alone in this. Please leave a comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me if you think I was wrong for what I did next. And if this story is touching something in your heart, please hit that subscribe button. Not for me, but for all the mothers out there who need to know their sacrifices mattered, even when their children forget. Now let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Alex's face. Not the cold stranger from today, but my little boy, gap-toothed and grinning, presenting me with a Mother's Day card made from construction paper and too much glue. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went to the hallway closet where I kept the memory boxes. 27 years of report cards, soccer trophies, and handmade gifts. I found what I was looking for in the third box, a card from when Alex was 8, just months after Tom's funeral. "Dear Mom," it read in shaky pencil. "You are the best mom in the world. You work so hard for me. When I grow up, I will be rich, and you won't have to work anymore. You can just be happy. Love, Alex. P.S. You are the strongest person I know." The strongest person he knew. Now I was an embarrassment to hide from his new family. My phone rang at 3:17 a.m. Linda Martinez, my best friend since our kids were in elementary school together. She'd moved to Vegas 5 years ago, but we still talked every week. "Rachel, I know it's late there, but I couldn't sleep. I keep thinking about what you told me yesterday, about Alex asking you to skip the reception." "I don't know what to do, Linda." "Yes, you do. You just don't want to admit it. He's my only child. And you're his only mother. When did that stop mattering?" I told her about the $30,000, about Table 18, about being asked to lie about paying for the wedding. She listened without interrupting, though I could hear her sharp intake of breath at certain parts. "Rachel, honey, can I ask you something? In the 46 years since Alex was born, when have you ever chosen yourself?" The question hung in the darkness of my bedroom. "I chose to build the business for Alex so he could go to college. I chose not to remarry because you thought Alex needed stability. I chose to—" I stopped. She was right. Every choice, every decision, every sacrifice had been for someone else. First for Tom, then for Alex, always for someone else. "You gave that boy everything," Linda continued. "And now he's asking you to give up your dignity too. Where does it end, Rachel? When he has kids, will you only be allowed to see them through window glass? Will you be the grandmother they're taught to be ashamed of? You don't understand. The Harrisons have connections. This could make Alex's career. At what cost? Your relationship? Your self-respect? Rachel, that check you wrote, can you cancel it?" "It's a regular check. I have 72 hours to stop payment." "Then you have 36 hours left." "I can't cancel my son's wedding payment. What kind of mother does that? The kind who's tired of being treated like an ATM machine. The kind who realizes that love without respect isn't love at all." After Linda hung up, I sat in the darkness, surrounded by memories of a boy who no longer existed. Or maybe never existed the way I thought he did. Maybe I'd been so busy sacrificing, I'd forgotten to teach him that sacrifice should go both ways. At 5 a.m., I made my decision. I showered, dressed in my work clothes, not the beige dress that made me invisible, but my regular Wednesday outfit, and drove to First National Bank. They opened at 7 a.m., but I knew Margaret came in early to set up. She let me in the employee entrance at 6:45. "Rachel, what are you doing here so early? The wedding's not until Saturday." "I need to stop payment on a check." Her face changed. "The $30,000? "Yes." "Honey, are you sure? Once you do this?" "I'm sure. For the first time in maybe my whole life, I'm absolutely sure." She processed the stop payment order in silence, but her eyes were kind. When she handed me the confirmation, she squeezed my hand. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. I sat in my car afterward, holding the stop payment confirmation. My phone was buzzing. 12 missed calls from Alex, 23 from Julia, 4 from Patricia Harrison. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I called my lawyer, Robert Chen, who'd handled my business affairs for 15 years. "Robert, I need you to draft something for me. A letter to my son." "A letter? Rachel, is everything okay?" "No, but it will be. I need the letter to explain that I'm restructuring my will. The business, the properties, everything. I want it set up as a foundation for single mothers trying to start over, like I did." That's a big decision. What about Alex?" "Alex has the Harrisons now. He doesn't need my little business." There was a pause. "I'll have it ready by noon. Rachel, I'm proud of you." Proud. It had been so long since anyone said that to me, since I'd given myself a reason to be proud. The sun was rising over Denver, painting the mountains gold. Somewhere across town, my son was probably just waking up, 3 days before his wedding, unaware that his mother had finally learned to choose herself. My phone exploded at 7:47 a.m., 47 missed calls. I was sitting in my office at Winters Fresh, watching my employees arrive for their shifts, when Alex's name flashed on the screen again. This time, I answered. "What did you do?" He wasn't even trying to hide his rage. "Good morning to you too, son." "Don't play games. The venue just called. The check bounced. They're threatening to cancel everything if we don't pay by noon." The check didn't bounce. I stopped payment on it. The silence was so complete I could hear his breathing, rapid and harsh. You deliberately canceled the check? 3 days before my wedding?" 2 days, actually. And yes. "Are you insane? Mom, the Harrisons have guests flying in from Tokyo, from London. The governor's coming. You're going to humiliate me in front of the most important people in Denver. Like you were planning to humiliate me by hiding me in the kitchen? That's not... This is different. This is sabotage. This is evil." Evil. My son thought I was evil for not paying for a wedding I wasn't truly welcome at. "Alex, you have 2 options. You can pay for your own wedding, or the Harrisons can cover it. They certainly have the money." Julia's already called her father. He's furious. He says if I can't manage my own family, how can he trust me to manage a company? That's manipulation, Alex. Can't you see that? What I see is my mother destroying my future out of spite. I'm not destroying anything. I'm simply choosing not to fund my own exclusion. You're so selfish. After everything I've... He stopped, but I knew what he was going to say. After everything he'd done for me, as if tolerating my presence was some grand favor. "You have 3 hours, I said calmly. 3 hours for what? To apologize. To genuinely, honestly apologize for how you've treated me. To uninvite me from the ceremony and reception. To tell the Harrisons the truth about who's been paying for this wedding. 3 hours. Or what? Or nothing. That's it. I stop payment, and we go our separate ways. You're threatening to cut me off? Your only son? I'm offering you a chance to be my son again. The real question is whether you want to take it." He hung up on me. 20 minutes later, Julia called. Her voice was ice-cold fury wrapped in southern charm. "Rachel, honey, there seems to be some confusion about the payment." "No confusion. I've decided not to pay for a wedding where I'm not welcome." "You are welcome. You're invited." "To sit by the kitchen and pretend I don't exist? That's not an invitation, Julia. That's an insult." "I don't know what Alex told you, but he told me what you told him to tell me, that I should skip the reception, that I should lie about paying for anything, that I'm an embarrassment to your family." "Well, aren't you?" The mask slipped, and the real Julia emerged. "You wash clothes for a living. Do you have any idea what that looks like to our friends, to our investors?" "It looks like honest work. It looks like failure, like Alex came from nothing." He did come from nothing. After his father died, we had nothing, and I built something from that nothing with my bare hands. If that embarrasses you, perhaps you should ask yourself why. You bitter old woman, you're jealous that Alex chose me, chose our life over your pathetic... "Julia, did you know I've been investigating you too? Not with a private investigator like you did to me, but the old-fashioned way. Talking to people. Your family's money? It's all inherited. Your father hasn't made a successful deal in 5 years. You're living off your grandfather's success, pretending to be something you're not. At least I earned what I have. she gasped. "How dare you?" "I dare because I have nothing left to lose. My son already chose you over me, but I don't have to pay for that choice. We'll sue you. Breach of promise. We have texts where you promise to pay." "Sue me then. I have a very good lawyer. We'll discuss in court how you took $30,000 from a widow you were planning to humiliate. I'm sure the society pages would love that story." Patricia Harrison called next, then William, then a lawyer who threatened me with vague legal consequences. I didn't budge. The money was mine, earned through 20 years of 16-hour days, and I was under no legal obligation to give it to people who despised me. At 10:58 a.m., 2 minutes before my deadline, Alex texted, "You win. Come to the wedding. Sit wherever you want. Happy now?" Not an apology, not even close to an apology, just resentment and manipulation. I texted back, "That's not an apology. Goodbye, Alex." Then I blocked his number, Julia's too, and the Harrisons. For the first time in 46 years, I chose myself, and it felt like finally being able to breathe after holding my breath my entire life. I know what you're thinking. How could a mother do that to her own son? How could I be so cruel? But let me ask you this. When someone you love treats you like you're worthless, how long do you accept it? How many times do you let them break your heart before you say enough? If you've ever been in my shoes, if you've ever had to choose between your dignity and a toxic relationship, please leave a comment. Tell me I'm not alone. Tell me I'm not a monster for finally standing up for myself. And please, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who's giving too much to people who appreciate too little. Now let me tell you what happened at that church. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling, as if the weather knew what was coming. I put on my navy dress, the good one, not the beige one that made me invisible. If this was going to be the last time I saw my son, I would face it as myself, not as the ghost Julia wanted me to be. I arrived at St. Matthew's Cathedral at 1:45 p.m. The parking lot was full of Mercedes, BMWs, and Teslas. My 10-year-old Honda looked like a mistake someone had made, but it was paid for, like everything else in my life, with my own money. Alex was waiting at the church entrance, not to greet me, but to block me. His face was stone. "You came." I said I would think about it. I thought about it. "You can't come in, Mom. Not after what you did." "After what I did? I stopped paying for my own humiliation, that's all." "You destroyed my wedding. The Harrisons had to scramble to cover everything. They had to call in favors, liquidate investments. They had to pay for their daughter's wedding. How terrible for them." Julia appeared in the doorway, a vision in white that probably cost more than some people's cars. "You have some nerve showing up here." "It's a church, Julia. Everyone's welcome in God's house." "Not you. Not after you tried to ruin our day." "I didn't try to ruin anything. I simply chose not to participate in my own erasure." That's when she dropped the bomb. "We know all about you, Rachel. I hired someone to look into your finances. $2 million in assets, 3 properties, a business that nets $400,000 a year. You could have paid for 10 weddings." "Yes, I could have. But why would I pay for even one where I'm not wanted?" "You manipulative witch. You pretended to be some poor widow." "I never pretended anything. I am a widow. I built everything I have from nothing after my husband died. Every penny came from 16-hour days and missed holidays and choosing work over sleep. I don't apologize for my success." William Harrison had joined us now, his face red with anger or alcohol or both. "You've cost me a fortune, woman." "I cost you nothing. Your daughter's wedding cost you a fortune. There's a difference." "Alex should have warned us his mother was trash." "Trash?" I laughed, actually laughed. "I wash your shirts, William. Your wife brings them to my downtown location every week. Winter's Fresh, the place you called a little business. We clean your clothes, your sheets, your tablecloths. Who's really serving whom here?" A crowd was gathering, wedding guests drawn by the drama. I recognized some of them as customers. Mrs. Chen from the country club, Dr. Patterson and his wife. They all used Winter's Fresh. "Mom, please," Alex said, but his voice was different now, uncertain. Just go. You're embarrassing yourself." "No, son. For the first time in your life, I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference." Pastor Johnson appeared in his ceremonial robes. "Is there a problem here?" "This woman is trespassing," William said. Pastor Johnson looked at me, and his face softened. "Rachel Winters, you've been doing my clerical robes for 15 years. Never missed a deadline, never a complaint." He turned to William. "This woman is welcome in my church any day, any time. If you have a problem with that, perhaps you should find another venue." "The wedding is in 15 minutes!" Julia shrieked. "Then you'd better decide quickly," Pastor Johnson said calmly. "Do you want a wedding with Rachel present or no wedding at all?" The silence stretched. Guests were openly staring now, some recording on their phones. The society wedding of the year was becoming the scandal of the year. "Mom," Alex said quietly, and for a moment I saw my son again. The real one, buried under all that ambition and greed. "Mom, why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything, Alex. I'm just existing. I'm just being your mother. The question is why that's so hard for you to accept." "Because," he struggled, looking between Julia and me, "because you don't fit." "Into what? Into this fantasy where you came from money? Where you didn't grow up in a 2-bedroom apartment above a laundromat? Where your father didn't die in a construction accident and your mother didn't work herself to the bone to give you everything? That's not who I am anymore." "That's exactly who you are. You can wear all the Tom Ford suits you want, marry into all the money in Denver, but you'll always be that boy who did homework in the back of a laundromat. The only question is whether you're proud of how far you've come or ashamed of where you started." Julia grabbed his arm. "Alex, we need to start. The guests are waiting." He looked at me one last time. "I'm sorry you can't be happy for me, Mom." "I'm sorry you can't be happy with yourself, son." They walked into the church. I stood in the doorway watching my son walk away from me, possibly forever. But for the first time in 46 years, I stood tall, knowing I'd chosen dignity over degradation, self-respect over sacrifice. I didn't stay for the ceremony. As the organ music began, I turned and walked back to my car. But I wasn't alone. Mrs. Chen followed me out, then Dr. Patterson, then 3 more people I recognized as customers. "Rachel," Mrs. Chen said, "I heard everything. That was unconscionable how they treated you." "It's family business," I said, though my voice was shaking. "No," Dr. Patterson said firmly. "It's about respect. You've served this community for 20 years. You've employed our kids, given second chances to people getting back on their feet. You're worth 10 of the Harrisons." Pastor Johnson had followed us out too, still in his robes. "Rachel, I need to tell you something. I wasn't going to perform the ceremony anyway." "What?" Julia and Alex failed to complete their pre-marriage counseling. They came to one session and said they were too busy for the rest. Any couple who's too busy to prepare for marriage isn't ready for marriage. But you're going in there to tell them they can have a blessing, not a wedding. Without the proper preparation, I won't sanctify a union that's clearly built on the wrong foundation. I sat in my car afterward, watching as guests began leaving the church early, confusion and whispers following them. My phone, which I'd turned back on, showed 18 missed calls from Alex. I didn't answer. Instead, I drove to my office and did something I hadn't done in 20 years. I took the rest of the day off. I called my managers and told them I was unavailable. Then I went home, opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for Alex's wedding, and toasted myself. Linda called that evening. "I heard what happened. It's all over social media. Someone posted a video." "A video?" "Mother of groom stands up to entitled bride. It has 200,000 views already. The comments are all supporting you." "I don't care about views, Linda. I lost my son today." "No, honey. You lost him a long time ago. Today, you found yourself." She was right. For the first time since Tom died, maybe since Alex was born, I felt like myself. Not someone's mother, not someone's widow, not someone's embarrassment, just Rachel. That night, I made a decision. I called Robert Chen again. "Robert, Remember that expansion opportunity in Vegas you mentioned last year? The one I turned down because Alex said I should slow down? The commercial complex near the Strip? Yes, it's still available. Buy it. I'm opening a 4th location. And Robert, make sure it's twice as big as the Denver flagship. Rachel, that's a $2 million investment. I know. I have the money. Money I was saving for Alex's future. But you know what? It's time I invested in my own future. 3 days later, Alex sent an email. Not a call, not a visit. An email. Mom, Julia and I have separated. The wedding was a disaster. Pastor Johnson refused to marry us, and the Harrisons are blaming me for the embarrassment. Julia says she can't be with someone who can't manage his own mother. I've lost everything because of you. I hope you're satisfied. I wrote back, Alex, you lost everything because you tried to be someone you're not. You lost everything because you valued their money over my love. You lost everything because you never learned that respect is earned, not bought. I'm here if you ever want to be my son again. My real son, not the character you've been playing. But I won't accept anything less than genuine love and respect. Not anymore. Mom. He didn't respond. 6 months later, I stood in my new Vegas location, watching the grand opening crowd flow in. Linda was there. I'd hired her as my regional manager. Several Denver customers had sent flowers. Pastor Johnson had sent a blessing. On my desk was a photo, not of Alex in his cap and gown, but of me standing in front of my first location 20 years ago, tired but proud. That woman, I realized, was the one worth celebrating. She was the one who'd survived widowhood, single motherhood, and poverty to build something real. My phone buzzed, an unknown number, but the area code was Denver. Hello? Mrs. Winters, this is Julia Harrison. Well, just Julia now. I wanted to apologize and to ask if you're hiring. I need a job, and I heard you give second chances. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Everyone deserves a second chance, Julia. But you'll start at minimum wage, and you'll work your way up like everyone else. No special treatment. I understand. Thank you. After I hung up, I looked at that old photo again and smiled. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is show them who you really are. And sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is finally believe you're worth more than what others think of you. The Vegas location was thriving beyond my wildest dreams. We were processing contracts for 3 major casinos, and I'd hired 15 employees, all single mothers or women starting over. That's when I knew what my legacy would really be. I was in my new office, reviewing applications for the Rachel Winters Fresh Start Scholarship, $10,000 grants for single mothers pursuing education or starting businesses, when Margaret from the bank called. Rachel, you need to know something. Alex was in here yesterday. My heart stopped. Is he okay? He's working as a teller, entry level. He asked about you, wanted to know if you still banked with us. What did you tell him? The truth. That you're our biggest commercial client now, that you just established a $1 million scholarship fund. Rachel, he cried, right there at the teller window. I didn't know what to do with that information, so I filed it away and went back to work. But it stayed with me, the image of my son crying over choices we'd both made. Julia had been working for me for 3 months. She was a different person without the Harrison money and name, quieter, humbler, harder working. She'd started in the sorting room and worked her way up to customer service. Yesterday, she'd asked to speak with me privately. Rachel, I need to tell you something. Alex doesn't know I'm working here. You're divorced. It's none of his business. We're not divorced, not yet. We're in counseling, real counseling this time, not the kind where we show up once and call it done. Why are you telling me this? Because he's changed, or maybe changed back. He talks about you constantly, about the lessons you taught him that he forgot. He keeps that Mother's Day card on his dashboard, the one from when he was 8. How do you know about that card? Because I found it in the trash 3 years ago, when we first got engaged. He threw it away because I said it was childish. I'm the one who made him ashamed of you, Rachel. I poisoned him against you because I was jealous. Jealous of what? Of how much he loved you. of how he'd light up when talking about his childhood, about the laundromat, about you making miracles with nothing. I came from money but no love. You gave him love but no money. I convinced him money was better. And now? Now I know I was wrong. Money runs out. My family cut me off completely after the wedding disaster. But the skills you're teaching me, the work ethic, the dignity in earning your own way, that's forever. Does Alex know you feel this way? He's learning. We both are. 2 weeks later, on a Sunday morning, my doorbell rang. I never got visitors on Sundays. It was my only day off. I opened the door to find Alex standing there, holding a bouquet of daisies from the grocery store. He looked different, thinner, older, humbler. "Hi, Mom." "Alex, can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked into my living room, the same one where he'd grown up, and I saw him really look at it for the first time in years. The photos on the walls, the Afghan his grandmother had crocheted, the coffee table he'd carved in high school shop class. "I forgot how beautiful this place was," he said softly. "It hasn't changed." "No, I did." He turned to face me, and his eyes were full of tears. "Mom, I'm sorry. Not the kind of sorry that wants something, but the kind that knows it doesn't deserve forgiveness. Tell me why you're sorry." "Because I let them convince me that love was less valuable than money. Because I threw away everything real for something fake. Because I asked you to disappear when you're the only person who never left me. And now? Now I'm working at a bank, making $18 an hour. Julia and I are in a studio apartment. We're in counseling, real counseling. And every day, I think about the 16-hour days you worked and feel ashamed that I ever felt ashamed of you." I looked at my son, really looked at him, and for the first time in 3 years I saw him. Not the stranger in the expensive suit, but my boy. "Redemption isn't given, Alex. It's earned." "I know. I'm ready to earn it." "Then you can start by having coffee with your mother. Real coffee, not the fancy stuff. The kind we used to drink when you were doing homework in the back office." "I'd like that," he said, and his smile was real. "I'd like that more than anything." So that's my story. At 68, I learned it's never too late to choose yourself. Never too late to demand respect. Never too late to stop accepting less than you deserve. If you're sacrificing everything for someone who gives nothing back, remember, love without respect isn't love, it's exploitation. Like and subscribe if this story gave you strength. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their sacrifices matter, even when the people they sacrifice for forget. I'm Rachel Winters from Denver, Colorado, now building dreams in Vegas, too. Thank you for listening to my truth. Remember, you're worth more than what others think of you.